Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Hi, my name is Marin Tchakarov. I'm the CEO of Kindred.ai, and today's safety tip for warehouse spaces is please follow the standard operating procedures with respect to do's and don'ts in the modern era, customer fulfillment centers and warehouses.
How do you create warehouse superheroes? The answer is simple. With visual voice scan solutions from ProCensus. With record demand and labor shortages, warehouses need more effective workers and lightning fast onboarding. Visual voice scan solutions from ProCensus enable warehouse workers to achieve superhero performance with up to 20% improved productivity and up to 99% accuracy. Hands-free barcode scanners from ProGlove paired with wearable mobile computers is just the beginning. Improved mobile interfaces with reduced keystrokes, easy-to-read screens, custom keyboards, voice-enabled interface, and more can be realized with ease on the leading WMS platforms. Sound too good to be true? Let us show you with our one-of-a-kind virtual demo. Visit ProCensus.com to get started today. Again, that's ProCensus.com to get started. With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer. Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
All right, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I am going to be joined by Marin Tchakarov. He is the CEO at Kindred.ai, and Kindred.ai offers a unique robotic solution that's also powered by artificial intelligence called Sort, and it is a really great combination of the use of highly skilled robotic arms as well as artificial intelligence, but Marin can certainly give us a better explanation of it, I'm sure. So we're going to learn about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about how the idea kind of came about for that solution, their acquisition by Ocado, which happened earlier this year, and how that kind of will maybe adjust their business, not adjust their business, and how that will impact them, and also kind of how they see their technology accelerating into the future. So, Marin, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Yes, happy to have you on. We talked about it before we started recording. We were supposed to record in the beginning of the year, and it is super, super busy because you guys did get acquired by Ocado, which we'll talk a little bit about. But why don't you tell us, I gave my little explanation, but let's hear from the boss here. What's the explanation for Kindred.ai? How do you guys explain that you do things, and what is it that you do?
Sure. We were founded in 2014 by a collective of brilliant machine learning and artificial intelligence scientists.
Okay.
And we set on to develop what ended up being a proprietary patented autograsp technology that essentially embodies machine vision powered, or AI powered machine vision aspect to it, and grasp and manipulation type capabilities to follow. And so in machine vision speak, singulation is the ability to see objects separate and distinct from one another. And endearingly so, our founding scientists focused on one of the hardest problems in the space to solve in terms of singulation, or the ability to see items separate and distinct, in terms of focusing on deformables rather than rigid items.
Okay.
Deformables, for example, polybags. And so in 2017, we launched our, therefore, first robot, a sortation robot that embodies that proprietary technology of AI-powered machine vision, grasping and manipulation set of technologies to sort polybags, merchandising polybags, i.e. deformables, into e-commerce fulfillment centers across the country.
It's very interesting, and I remember seeing it. I believe it was, I can't remember if it was back at ProMat in person or Modex, but one of them. I remember seeing it, and it is a really interesting solution, interesting looking as well. But it's certainly a difficult problem that you guys are trying to solve, essentially. Most notably the grasping of the products, and then the sortation of them as well. So I'm curious, why was the decision made to go after that type of solution and try and solve for that problem and bring robotics to that?
Yeah, again, it was an ambition combined with the capability to see a problem that hadn't been to date. And again, rolling back to the middle of the decade, 2015, 2016, 2017, seeing a set of problems that hadn't been addressed via smart automation and intelligent machines to date, and seeing the opportunity, recognizing the opportunity to do so, and then raising the ante one level up above the rest of the fray, so to speak, whereby most of our competition then and to date had been and has been focused on the simpler problem to solve with respect to singulation and manipulation, therefore, of objects, which is rigids. Just the geometry and the cuboids of the world, and the stereometry of those with respect to deformables. There's a much harder problem to solve with how a machine can see a deformable item that can crumple and permutate into a variety of, therefore, different
shapes,
looking objects.
Yeah,
and shapes. And so, it's a long-winded way of kind of our history of how we focused on a hard problem, endearingly so, and I'm incredibly proud of our team then and now in terms of the fortitude and courage to face really, really hard problems in real world settings and go after them and solve them eloquently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you said in there is pretty ambitious, which I think it definitely is. And I certainly will put a video on the newwarehouse.com as well, so people can reference and see it. But I guess talk to us a little bit about how the solution works, because it's essentially, what would you call it? I guess it's essentially like almost like a cylinder, right, where these things come inside, and then the robotic arm is within the middle of the cylinder, and it's grasping the items and then sorting them into essentially like little cubbies that are cut into the cylinder. So I guess walk us through the flow of those goods and how I guess they're arriving at the sort, and then what the sort is accomplishing, and then what is the process that takes place after sort.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Sure. Yeah. So we designed our sort robot essentially, and again, the viewers can see the videos and collateral, but it's essentially an orb or a sphere-like system with the output locations or cubbies on the perimeter, sort of the sphere outside, the sort of entrapping or encircling the robotic arm in the middle. And so it creates this, 360-degree movement perimeter for the robotic arm to operate within and do so safely within that perimeter. We have 27 with our current sortation product. We have 27 output locations.
Okay.
So 27 cubbies to sort separate in customer order merchandise. And the way the merchandise flows into the robot is, each and every robot is either through a chute or through a conveyor belt being fed by the induction in the customer fulfillment center, whether that's a bomb bay or another induction mechanism, that those robots that are placed, again, whether by conveyor or a chute, are being fed the merchandise down a bin within the center of the sortation robot, whereby as soon as we detect merchandise actually being present in the bin and the bin not being empty, we begin singulating. Again, machine vision speak for seeing items separate and distinct from one another. And then we calculate grasp points real time, and then effect grasps onto those grasp points, pick up the item successfully, scan the item with one of the 4 scanners that we have inside our orb. And then based on the output, we sort that item to a designated cubby.
Okay. All right. Interesting. And, very, very complex, but very, very smart way of doing things. And as I'm thinking about it, I guess I was thinking about the right word to describe it. It's almost like a circular put wall, essentially. Yeah.
That's spherical, precisely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. And so now, when it's sorting the things, you mentioned that it's able to scan there as well. So I'm curious, and you mentioned in the beginning too about it being able to grasp these poly bags. And so is it, when you're looking at a customer to potentially use sort, are they having to adjust their product packaging in any way, or their labeling in a certain way so that sort can successfully sort, I guess, essentially is what it does, right?
Yeah, no, we don't expect our customers to make any meaningful and significant modifications for all the obvious reasons in the world. We want to be as plug and play as humanly possible. And dare I say we need 3 inputs for our sort robot to work. We need power. We can even customize to 110 or 220 volt output. So we need power, we need pressurized air for the suction cup of our proprietary gripper and effector, and we need bandwidth to connect. We do have human in the loop, aspect to the solution. I am incredibly proud of the fact that we're over 99% autonomous. But again, when we have a huge fleet of robots and a lot of customer locations, we live in the exceptions. We live in that less than 1% where, whether it's a non-conforming item that's come down the chute inadvertently in a particular robot's bin, or whether it's another issue with a particular item having too many labels, or the list of potential exceptions goes on and on. We have a 24/7, 365 remote, what we call endearingly pilots, who are folks basically observing and monitoring the entire robotic fleet for any exception handling type involvement in human in the loop. So that ensemble of, human in the loop together with over 99% autonomy in field, in production setting, gives us essentially the capability to operate within the very, very stringent KPIs that a modern era customer fulfillment center requires.
Yeah, and I think that's really good to know. And the fact that it's 99% autonomous, I think is a great win and a huge impact as well. When you're only managing the little bit of exceptions, which I think is expected, especially in fulfillment world, as we see different things happening and different scenarios as well. So really interesting stuff. And I mentioned in the beginning there, because we're extremely busy, in the beginning of the year, with the acquisition from Ocado. So I'm curious to hear a little bit about that, because Ocado is essentially a grocery company, right? So what is a grocery company doing acquiring a robotics and AI company, essentially? How did that come about, and what is that relationship like?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and one that on the surface begs an answer, but the reality is that Ocado has been for some time now and is a technology powerhouse. It's, yes, its beginnings and roots are in online grocery fulfillment. This is how the company was founded back in 2000. But in the last several years, there's been a tremendous amount of work and success with respect to the Ocado Smart Platform or OSP proliferating beyond the markets in which the company had operated previously. And so there's essentially unique and basically perfect alignment with respect to product roadmap, and vision and culture between the two companies. And lastly, I would say that grocery online fulfillment isn't, when you think about SKUs in middle of the aisle, the item set of a modern era grocery customer fulfillment center, having 50, 60,000 SKUs or more isn't very different from the modern era apparel customer fulfillment center. And in fact, if one could handle the item set that is in a grocery customer fulfillment center, one can certainly handle the item set in a general merchandise type setting.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that, actually, because when you look at grocery and things like that, there can be some stuff that's definitely sensitive in a sense to grasp and move around. So, were you already geared towards being able to handle those types of items, or is the acquisition something that's kind of pushed you more towards grocery type of fulfillment, or is it still kind of wide open?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so we're even prior to the acquisition, we had been steadfastly focused on expanding our capabilities with respect to a variety of items. So essentially expanding our capabilities with respect to item sets. And so again, as I mentioned earlier, endearingly, we focused on solving one of the harder problems in the space, which is how to handle deformables. Effectively, that implies that we can handle rigids. And so, and I would say that, certainly what winning looks like in the future is the ability to handle a full breadth of an item set. That is to say, not only deformables, but rigids, and in a variety of different industry segments or market segments, if you will. And so, yeah, we had been focused on those types of capabilities pre-acquisition, and certainly post-acquisition, we now have more resources to pursue strategic imperatives in parallel rather than sequentially. For example, we are now not only investing in broadening our item set capabilities, platform-wise, not just product-wise. So not just sort, but technology platform-wise. We're investing into, again, in parallel, addressing additional market segments that will be appealing to our existing and future customers. We're addressing different geographies today that we probably wouldn't have for some years in the past on a standalone basis. And so we're looking to expand geographically in the immediate future. And lastly, but not least, we're investing in scaling tremendously, actually, in terms of our growth, historical and present, scaling our customer support teams across the country and in the world eventually as we proliferate through different geographies to deliver world-class data-driven type customer support for our customers, and that involves data analytics that our customers would find interesting and valuable.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. Yeah. I was curious about that, and it's good to hear about, how the, I guess, the acquisition is allowing you to have, some more resources to do those types of things and get the technology out there, which is a great thing. It's increasing the accessibility for companies to be able to utilize these types of technologies and really help improve their operations and their overall efficiency, which I think is a great thing. So I'm curious from your perspective, as a CEO of technology, robotics, the AI company, what do you think is coming for the fulfillment world from a technology standpoint? What's really going to be the next big thing, in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I think it's probably the best way to address this or to answer it is to kind of go back first and paint the landscape of what we've been seeing in terms of trends. And over the last several years, one of the key emerging trends that we've been a witness and a participant in has been the behavioral shift, the consumer behavioral shift away from brick and mortar and onto e-commerce.
Right.
And again, that's just been a steady pattern over, like I said, the last several years. And it's interesting to put a pin in this and talk about COVID and the pandemic and what that's done. And this has been a tremendous catalyst to that, and it's exacerbated a lot of these trends, sped them up tremendously, in fact, over the last 18 months or so.
Absolutely.
And we think we've observed enough data points with respect to our growing fleet and patterns in terms of operations within our customer fulfillment centers that's led us to conclude that these trends are here to stay. And so, the intelligent machine automation is paramount. We have seen that over the last 4 years of operations in production settings with marquee customers such as Gap and American Eagle and others, we've become essential to those operations by offering a new way for human to collaborate with machine.
Yeah.
That hasn't really, been in vogue before. And we've offered a very novel way for humans to effectively supervise robots and elevate their involvement in a customer fulfillment center to different set of tasks in the present era.
Very interesting. Yeah. And I think it is interesting to see how the technology, like you said, has been somewhat accelerated in some aspects by the pandemic. I've talked to several people on the podcast about that type of thing and how it's kind of moved their business faster than they thought. Plans that were 5 years out became 3 months out. So, it's really interesting to see that things, and, I totally agree with you on the consumer behavior continuing to move more towards the online commerce and away from brick and mortar. So it's always great to see that, companies are developing technology and bringing that technology in to elevate other people's positions, as you mentioned, and give them more meaningful work, I guess, in a sense, instead of the mundane, obviously, the mundaneness of sorting all day long. This goes here, this goes here, this goes here. So, kind of looking at and working with these robots to make their life better and overall well-being better as well is a really great thing. So it's really interesting to hear more about Kindred and kind of learn about it. I remember seeing it, as I mentioned, and thinking this is really kind of a unique type of solution. And I'm finally happy I got to talk to you and learn more about it.
Yeah, and I would actually add more to that point. I feel like our listeners and the audience may find what I said conceptual. So I just wanted to ground it by some examples. What I find particularly endearing and powerful is many of our customer associates, have these competitions with one another. It's worth mentioning that a human associate can essentially supervise up to 4 or even sometimes 5 sort robots at a time. Yeah. And so many of our customer associates have these friendly competitions, and they name their robots. They refer to them as my robot versus your robot.
Yeah.
And so there's these friendly competitions happening, and also there's human-like characteristics being assigned to their quote unquote their robots. And it's a very interesting modern era way of collaboration between human and machine, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I'm happy you're at those points, and I think the humanization of the robots as well makes it like very interesting, and I think like you said, I mean, it sounds like people have fun working with them, which is always a good thing as well, and the kind of that competition aspect as well definitely helps the productivity overall of the department and the facility. So it's really good that you have those examples to draw from and show. And I mean, managing 4 to 5 is a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And from a business point of view, I mean, again, this is the human point of view and the collaborative point of view. But from a business point of view, again, you could see how then therefore the throughput effectively gets quadrupled or more.
Right.
In terms of productivity and overall throughput capability of an e-com fulfillment center.
Yeah.
In that type of collaboration.
Yeah, and I guess to that point, when you look at like one sort setup, like one sort robot, how many people, or like what would be the head count that is effectively taking away from that sortation process? Like how many people would need to do the same amount of work that this sort is doing?
Again, it's worth emphasizing that it's not taking humans away. We're redistributing the human labor into a more elevated level of tasks and responsibilities, and therefore we're really essentially providing a multiplier effect to productivity of the humans in that environment. So it's not a reduction. It's a redistribution of human labor, if you will. I mean, I would focus on some of the stats to make the point. Our sortation robot moves with the speed of, or operates with the speed of 400 plus items per hour.
Oh wow! Okay.
A human could do, and we've seen humans do easily 500 per hour. So it's not a competition with a human.
Okay.
A human's still with the opposable thumb and all is still a very formidable, competitor when it comes to the performance of that task. And it's not about replacement, but it's more about collaboration with the human in that space, with speeds that come close to what a human can do.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. And I'm glad you kind of clarified that, as I was curious, if it is like, and I guess taking away was kind of the wrong wording. I didn't mean it in that way, but yeah, it's very interesting to hear those stats, and it kind of gives some more clarity to that aspect as well. So Marin, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. It's very interesting to learn more about Kindred.ai and what you guys are doing. Like I said, it's a very complex thing that you guys tried to tackle, and it is very noble, and you guys are doing it incredibly well and very smart too. So kudos to you and the team. How can people find out more information about Kindred.ai? Please
visit us on our website at www.kindred.ai and contact us through there. We'd love to showcase our technology, and we're incredibly proud of it. I want to, in closing, state that the 4 years of in production setting operations has given us a tremendous level of experience in terms of what it takes to operate in a real world setting, and the complexities of the exceptions of the 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million. We've now sorted hundreds of millions of transactions in real world settings, and so that is incredibly powerful differentiator and a moat between us and many, many others that are trying to do the same in the smart robotics space. Lastly, I would say that we couldn't have gotten here without our brilliant team, of which I'm incredibly proud of.
Great. And
thank you for having me on the show.
Definitely happy to have you on the show and learn more about this and your incredible team as well. So we will put more information about Kindred.ai on the newwarehouse.com, including a video of sort and how it works. It's very cool to see in process. So I definitely want to share that with the listeners. So Marin, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.